Firstly, though,
Here you are.
before you skip Jiyan because you want to get dominated by Yinlin, allow me to pose this question to you. Should you actually pull for Jiyan or save for Yinlin? And you can tell I'm legit by the way I'm suited up here. But anyways, if you're unaware, Jiyan will be the first limited banner that will be available the moment the game releases, while Yinlin should be the second banner after Jiyan. You want to be able to pull the character that's most suitable for you, which is why we have the PowerPoint slide today. Jiyan versus Yinlin, who to save for? By Molesta. If you're an OG, you know about this guy. We'll start with the conclusion right away, but let's start with some disclaimers. All of the information that you see here are based on CBT 3 that I gathered from mainly Bilibili. There are people who really ran a lot of tests and dumped in like hundreds of hours in the CBT. This video aims to bring what they found to you. I'll link every source and reference in the description down below. And now we can finally start the conclusion. Jiyan here is a self-sufficient main DPS that's ideal when used with supports like say Mortefi. You should pull for Jiyan if you want an all-rounder DPS. As for Yinlin, she's a god tier support slash sub DPS, ideal with a strong main DPS like Calcharo. In fact, the best pairing is with Calcharo. You want to pull Yinlin if you already have a strong DPS to begin with. Long story short, you need to let her support someone. And if your attention span is not nurtured by TikTok, let's actually break down Jiyan. What does he do and where's his value at? What are the problems? Let's see. Now, if I go through their entire kit, this video will take forever, and not to mention CBT3 information could be changed when time comes official release. So what I'll do is I'll summarize what they do with this point here. Jiyan's ultimate gathers enemies, which means he's good in AoE scenarios. If you don't know, the moment you activate Jiyan's ulti, he starts using like dragons that just gathers all enemies into one single spot. You can attack them again and again. Comparatively to someone like Calcharo, he does attack anyone in front of him, but if there's anyone around him, he may not be able to deal that much damage to them unless you know, go out your way to target them. This does pose the issue of Jiyan perhaps being weaker in single target scenarios compared to someone like Calcharo. It's like they're different specialists, right? One's good versus multiple enemies, one's good against one boss. We'll come back to that later though. The first reason that you want to really think of pulling on Jiyan's banner is of course the banner value as well. With the official release coming, we don't have a lot of characters, right? Sure, we get some free ones, but there are a lot of insane 4-stars that's just still hidden in the banner. And with Jiyan's banner, the value in the 4-stars are pretty damn good. That's rated up. We got Dungeon, Mortefi, and Shixia. Now, Dungeon is the strongest 4-star DPS that takes her own health in exchange for damage. Because of this high risk, high reward scenario, her damage output is out of this world. And then we have Mortefi. This guy is one of the best 4-star supports you can give for Jiyan, because not only with his ultimate, he activates an extra attack the moment your ally does any heavy attacks, which Jiyan does a lot of with his ulti especially. Plus, Mortefi does boost heavy attack damage. A perfect partner for Jiyan. So if you like Jiyan, pull on his banner, you get his best partner in crime as well. That would just be a starter team right there. And considering in Wuthering Waves, the Abyss needs you to have like 3 teams. So when we don't have that many characters to just pull a Jiyan and, you know, luck stack a Mortefi and just call that a team, it's really good. So those are the pros in my opinion for Jiyan. Let's take a look at the problems, right? Jiyan's problem is that the numbers that he can deal against a singular boss is weaker compared to, say, someone like Calcharo that's a specialist in more single target scenarios. See, in Abyss, just like in Genshin Impact, there are mobs that just gather around, shoot you with projectiles. Those people are very annoying. With Jiyan, you could gather all of them to the same place and hit the elite as well in the same time. It makes it so much easier. But conversely, when you're fighting a boss enemy, Jiyan's ability to gather enemies pretty much gets voided. Like, you don't need to gather one enemy. On top of that, because the way he's designed to attack multiple enemies at once against a singular boss, at least in CBT3 after testing by, you know, what I found on DCN side, his numbers are simply never higher than Calcharo against a singular boss, which considering Calcharo is a standard banner character that you could get by, you know, self-selecting them, makes you really question if you want to get Jiyan or not. But you know what? Before we just say, you know, skip him, we need to understand Yinlin's story as well. So let's just put a pin on this guy by saying the ideal option is to decide based on your beginner's pull. If you already pulled a Calcharo, you luck sacked it, right? A beginner, you know, 50 pull for pity. You got Calcharo, well, you don't need a DPS though, right? You might as well just, you know, think about skipping him if you like who you got as a main DPS. But if you only got Verena for a beginner pulls, maybe you can think about Jiyan, because Verena plus the 4-star Danjin could be a team. Verena plus Jiyan could be a team as well. There's gonna be a lot of freedom here, but you know what? Let's just compare him to Yinlin. You know, never know. If she's terrible, then you might as well get Jiyan, but oh, she ain't terrible. Let's take a look at Yinlin. Firstly, though,
Here you are.
Let's just say when you look at her, you just want to be a chair. Or at least that's the case for me. Horny aside though, let's take a look at what she truly does. To like summarize her abilities, right? We got that first point here. She has incredible buffs, especially for the electro element. To put it bluntly, she already gives you more damage, just generally. Everyone will benefit from this, but additionally, she boosts electro damage even more. So that's why you want to pair her with Calcharo, which is an electro character. Point number 2, she aids short-ranged main DPS in dealing with multiple enemies. The reason being with how her kit works, right? Her ultis and AoE. Her Fourth Circuit skill helps deal with anyone who's marked. Like you can probably see on the screen right now, a lot of the tiny mobs will just get hit by Yinlin. That helps someone like Calcharo a lot, which really targets down one enemy rather than, you know, everyone around him. Just help clear out the little mobs, right? And that's why Yinlin could be set as a sub DPS to just clear the weeds out. But here is the issue with Yinlin. She's not a main DPS. You need someone else to play that role. If you use Yinlin and you have her be on the field and you just want her to attack everyone, her damage isn't that bad though, I'll say that. But it will never get above, say, a Jiyan and Encore, or well, a Calcharo. So if you're a newer player, you say you want to save for Yinlin, make sure you have a main DPS already. If your entire account is filled with Verena, or just anyone that doesn't mainly do damage, then Yinlin can't even use her ability that well to help your main DPS, right? So in this sense, compared to Jiyan, Jiyan is the guy that does damage. He's the guy that you want to take to the field and use as the damage dealer, right? So you can see a bit of a difference there, but we'll actually have a direct comparison later. The next point, she is ideal with Calcharo and less ideal, but still good with anyone else. So if you played, say, Honkai or Genshin, like you got the support archetype of characters. So let's say Bennett, let's say Bronya from Honkai Star Rail. These are the characters where most of the time your main DPS can be whoever. They will still benefit that DPS. Certainly Yinlin plus Calcharo will be the most ideal, you know, match made in heaven. But to get Yinlin in your account means that any DPS you use will benefit from Yinlin. So in that sense, she's quite versatile. But moving on though, we do have the final point. When you are starting out, you have no, like, not that much characters at least to work with. We want to build a lot of teams for Abyss. So 4 stars are actually important in this game. You want to get good 4 stars. Like you can't just pull up with 3 teams of full 5 stars, right? At least not at the start. For Yinlin's banner, at least based on CBT, we get Taoqi, Alto, and Yuanwu as the 4-star radar. Now Taoqi, I think, is actually a pretty underrated character. To summarize what she does, she's a defensive scaler that does damage as well. She can also self-sustain, so a pretty all-round character too. I actually think she's a pretty decent 4-star. Next up, we have Alto. Now Alto does give you 30% arrow damage increase with his outro skill, but unlike Yinlin, that's generally helpful, Alto only helps arrow damage, which means he's good with Jiyan. And finally, we have Yuanwu, which isn't really that strong in CBT at least. He doesn't really buff your allies or anything. His damage isn't that insane either, which is why as a whole, the banner value on Yinlin's banner is just lower than what we had before. With Danjin, with more Tefi from before, that's pretty good. Honestly, the whole 4-star rate up thing is like, you know, it's hit or miss. You don't want them to be in the driver's seat. Oh, I will pull for Jiyan's banner just because of the 4 stars. I think that's really not what you want to do. You want to decide which 5-star to go for. Those are the meat and the juices, which is why we have our next slide here. Direct comparison. From what I've gathered from all the resources as well, and, you know, listening to what people have been saying, we can compare both of them in these 3 factors. Firstly, damage. Let's say in terms of damage, Jiyan is certainly better than Yinlin if they're both on a 1 versus 1 comparison, no allies, right? But that's not even a good comparison because, well, Jiyan's a DPS, Yinlin's a sub DPS / support, which for someone that supports your team, well, you guessed it, right? Yinlin plus Calcharo will be better than Jiyan plus any support that we have in the game. This is mostly due to the fact that we don't have a crazy arrow support yet that could match Yinlin, and the game just started. We got the first electro giga support in Yinlin, so that's why Calcharo as an electro DPS just gets really good. That's the first factor. Let's move on to the second one, team comps. This is important because we don't have a lot of characters to work with usually at the start. Jiyan helps out with that a lot because he prefers support that could be 4 stars, say Alto or Mortefi. Mortefi is a rate up in Jiyan's banner as well, so you could just get both of them and you have your team. As for Yinlin, she needs a main DPS ally. You could not use it, but it would just not be that smart, right? You want to utilize Yinlin's kit to its fullest, and by saying that, you want to have a Calcharo. If you don't have a Calcharo, well, say you got an Encore, she can still help out any DPS, right? Just ideally, you want an electro DPS. Heck, if you got Jiyan, you can even use Jiyan plus Yinlin. So I would say, honestly, these two, versatility-wise, Yinlin is just more versatile if you have main DPSs, but Jiyan isn't that restrictive as well that you must have a certain support. There's a lot of 4 stars option. Of course, Verena works beautifully too, which moves us to the third point, future-proof or not. I think Jiyan has a higher chance of being replaced. Allow me to explain. Based on CBT3's numbers, Jiyan is set to not do as much damage as Calcharo. So already I could proudly say that, yo, if I got Calcharo plus Yinlin, I'm gonna use that instead of using, you know, Jiyan in terms of just pure damage output, right? It would be very very ridiculous to say in the future there's gonna be no other DPS that gets released that cannot be better than the whole standard banner combined. Because come on, limited banner has to get even better to cook up the hype. It's just the same with any games, which is why I think Jiyan will be really good at the start, but he'll slowly get matched by more and more characters, and of course the newer releases as well might just outshine him in a sense. But this is not to say he's gonna be bad, he'll just be matched in the future. As for Yinlin though, she certainly has a lower chance of being replaced. With how they designed Yinlin to buff damage plus buff electro damage as well, you can expect the support to come in a waves of where they are elemental based. So at some point you'll see a spectral main supporter that buffs spectral damage plus some form of other damage as well. There's a really low chance that they'll just outright push out another electro support to just completely replace Yinlin, which means as long as they're an electro DPS in the game, Yinlin will be usable. Plus the fact that she's a support, you can swap out any DPS. Ideally you want Calcharo, but any DPS that comes out, you can put them with Yinlin. The versatility and usability that she has makes it so that just like any other games, the supports are usually not the ones that gets replaced bunch, the main DPSs are. It's the same for a lot of games, I'm sure you understand. But of course this is all just CBT3 information. Things could change by official release. So that was the direct comparison. Let's go on with the conclusion. This is the same slide as the first one, which if you've listened to me yap about every detail that I could find, perhaps it helped you out. But I'll share to you my own conclusion now. To me, all of this does not matter because it's a skill-based game. You could pull Jiyan, you could pull the worst character or the best character, does not matter. All of them have their own mechanic, own timing, own way to play. Some you want parries, some you want evade, some you want spam skills, which means that this game has less of an emphasis on a meta that people need to gather around in. It's more so people need to build their own main and master the skill. If you love Jiyan and you main Jiyan, you can still do insane damage, even out damaging Calcharo if they're on the hands of like a guy that doesn't know how to play them yet. So long story short, pull whoever the hell you want to play with. But if you're a guy that's like just dead set, I want the most strongest meta like team comps, and I think unfortunately or fortunately the easiest answer here, you want to pull Yinlin. Jiyan's specialty of being able to gather enemies and then hit them all at once is covered by Yinlin helping Calcharo with all her ulti, with all her short circuit skill as well. If you are chasing for the highest damage ceiling, that's what you want to go for. You want to grab Calcharo from either the self-selector or beginner banner. You want to grab Yinlin. You can probably skip Jiyan if you're going for full meta. But again, important to note, skill-based game, okay? So that should be all for my Yeah, I forgot. See, for some of you, you're like not convinced. This is how I convince you, okay? I don't got nothing else. Like, if this doesn't convince you, I don't got nothing. Okay, now seriously, we're about... I can get around some good pecs when I see one. So those are the last words of my pitch. Like, I think I've done it beautifully. I think I've just convinced like at least 2,000 people that didn't want Jiyan to be like, oh wait, hold on a minute. And now we're at the donkey. That is all for today's PowerPoint slide. I hope I helped you out, and remember, all of these information are based on CBT3, and I've tried my best to get all this information for you guys. I'm not Jesus Christ though, so if I made any mistake at all, I didn't mean it. Do let us know in the comments so everyone knows, right? And overall, I hope I helped you out. Me and my goofy, I will cover more Wuthering waves coming up, so yeah, make sure to subscribe or Mo Lester will get you, okay? That guy's crazy, dude. That is all. Take care.